Good afternoon. So great to be with you today. Welcome, I would say, from Iowa. I'm actually from Dallas, Texas, but I've been to 99 counties in Iowa, and we just flew in this morning, and we're going to be flying back tonight. Really for this one reason, because I believe it's important to show up. How many of you guys think it's important to show up? I think it's important to show up. And it's so important to show up because our nation, as we all know, is in trouble. We're in a place right now in our country, I would call it this way, where we've lost our way. And we're called to be this bright, shining lamp of freedom. You know, our nation has this incredible constitution that gives us these protections that no other nation does. Amazing constitution that's endured longer than any other nations, where we protect freedom and speech and press and business and life. And I would say this, the ability to protest, but not the way we're seeing it today, protest peacefully. But we're seeing now this freedom being darkened every day. And I think we've lost our way. How many of you guys would agree we seem to have lost our way? So I want to talk to you for a few minutes about this vision that I have for our country and how do we find true north again? You know, if you're lost and you've got a compass, which I've been lost, by the way, my oldest son was an Eagle Scout, so I've been to some of these hiking trips for week-long trips where we've been lost. But if you've been lost, you have to have a compass that points to true north. And I think if you've been in that situation, if you used a compass before, then you likely know that the compasses, most of them that we have today, don't actually point to true north. They point to magnetic north, which can be off from true north by several hundred miles, really over the years due to magnetic pressures. And I think this today. The United States of America, the President of the United States, Congress, the Senate, really leaders all over, they're trying to find true north, but there's pressures that have pulled them away. Pressures of debt, pressures of political interest, lobbyists, division, hatred. We have it so much. And I think this way, if we asked everybody which way is true north, if we asked Congress, we'd have 435 different directions. Would you agree? We'd have 100 different ones in Senate. We'd have the president pointing probably the other way right now. So we've got a problem. And I'm running in this race because I really believe that true north has been given to us. I bought a little bumper sticker out there in the hallway, or didn't buy it, it was given to me. They said, "We the people," because I think that "we the people" phrase is part of our true north. It's those first three words of our Constitution that reminds us that the government is for we the people, right? And our government's got it the other way around. It's also about, remember that motto we have, out of many one, e pluribus unum, remembering that we better be one or we're in trouble. And it's also about this other motto we have called "In God We Trust." And I believe that we're going to have to get back to trusting in God again and trusting in each other again. This is what our nation needs right now. You know, when you look at our country, we're in a great state of disrepair. You know, we are $33 trillion in debt. We have got inflation that's caused 50% of young people under 25 to have to go live with their parents. We've got mortgage rates that have caused mortgage payments to be double from when they were just 2 years ago. The average household spending $700 to $1,000 more a month than they did just 2 years ago. We've got problems. We have bank failures. We've been downgraded for the second time in U.S. history this year. We had 3 large bank failures this year that Janet Yellen said, "Don't worry about," that were the size of 28 banks in 2008. You guys remember those? They want us to forget these things. And I would say this, there's only one way through this. One way. And that is turning back to God. Using the wisdom that He's given us, using the faith that He's given us, bringing back love, charity, and I'll call it this, wisdom for our finances, laws, and government, and finding our way back to freedom. I am running in this race to really start and ignite, and I think a generation for an economic revival and a spiritual revival, and the time for that revival is now. And as I talk about this, I've been to 99 counties, I mentioned that, in Iowa. You know, a lot of people, so many people are wanting to see our country get back on the right track, but many times we don't know our way. You know, as you know, our party's very divided. It's stuck. It is in a place right now where it doesn't know whether to move forward or do we go look backwards? Do we try and figure out what happened in the last election? And I'm just saying this, there are so many things at stake, and I'm running for the next generation, that if we don't get it right now, and if we don't start moving ahead now, we could put the next generation at peril, and likely, and so they would be set up for the weakest economic foundation since the Great Depression. And if we don't do something financially, and this will be the first of 4 things that I really want to share with you about how to get ourselves back. If we don't do something back financially right now that's significant, I believe this 50 years from now, our generation, you and me, will be known as the generation that prospered the most, but sacrificed the least. We've had more wealth in our generation than the previous 2 combined, but what are we going to do? Are we going to leave our children with $50, $60 trillion in debt and say, hey, I'm going to the lake, good luck, I couldn't do it? I am not going to do that, and I know you're not going to either, but we better listen to where we are today, and I would say start moving. So I have got 4 key things. The first thing is a true economic freedom platform, and I'm putting together a plan that ends inflation, really puts us on a normal course. Again, does something that I've not heard one other presidential candidate talk about. If you watch the debates, they haven't said these words. I want to balance the budget. Has anybody ever said that? When's the last time you heard a president say this? We are going to pay off our debt. How many would like to make a principal payment on debt? We have not made a principal payment on debt in over 30 years. And so what's happening is we have no intention of it today. When they don't talk about it, when they ignore it, they have no intention of balancing the budget, no intention of paying it back. And for this one reason, they don't believe we can. And I put together a 7-year economic rescue plan, a detailed plan on how for us to do this. So a little bit about myself. I'm a CEO of an investment bank I co-founded with my dad about 20 years ago. We have about 400 employees in all the different companies we have. We're in 16 offices across the nation and in Canada. I'm also a pastor. My wife and I have been in ministry. We'll be married 25 years this January. And we have 5 kids. And this is where we're broken, economically and spiritually. So I see these things through these 2 lenses. And economically, we're just extremely fractured. And we can balance the budget. We're about 20% over budget this year. So that means we're going to go $2 trillion in debt this year alone. So in 5 years, we're going to be probably 6 years, $50 trillion in debt. Because just 7 years ago, you know how much debt we had? About $15 trillion. President Trump added about 7.5 or 8. President Biden's doing the same thing. So we're doubled in just 8 years. At this rate, we're going to be $50 trillion. What that means is out of our federal budget, about 14, 15% of our budget's going to be interest payments only. This next 12 months, we're going to spend $1 trillion in interest payments. More than our entire military, we're going to spend on interest payments. And we know what the Bible says, right? The borrower is a what? Slave to the lender. That means we're giving up our freedoms because we don't want to use wisdom financially. So we put together a plan. It is a good plan. And it saves us from this reckless spending we've been doing. You know, our federal government kind of reminds me of the story of a college student. He came home to his dad after his freshman year and he's like, Dad, I'm thinking about getting a second credit card. His dad's like, oh, dear God. Tell me, son, why do you want that? Well, my first one's kind of maxed out, but I got a good rate. And he said, son, how's your credit score? You sure that's a good idea? He said, I think it's pretty good. His dad said, why do you think that? He said, well, the credit card company called me the other day and they told me my debt's outstanding. I think he thought President Biden was going to pay not just his tuition, but his credit cards also. But this is what Washington thinks today. They think that debt is outstanding. There's no problem here. We can just keep doing this. I'm telling you right now, we have small regional banks throughout the United States of America that for the last 15 or 20 years have bought treasuries as assets to back up our bank accounts with 0 and 1% yields to them that today are worth about 70 cents on the dollar. And we saw those 3 bank failures happen this year, and those were a canary in the coal mine because at the end of the day, if the Fed raises rates 1 or 2 more times, you're going to see more regional bank failures happen all over the United States. So that's why the Fed is going, I'm pausing. I can't raise rates, and that's why inflation will continue. We may go through ups and downs, but the wave is going to be continuous higher, and the reason is because of monetary supply. Economics 101, you keep raising the supply of money, which is our debt and printing money. By the way, I've checked in to see if you guys could get one of those printing machines. How many of you like to have one of those money printing machines in your garage? I'm checking into it. And first day 1 as president, I'll get rid of the big one in the Fed. We have to today. It's destroying our economy. There's no way to balance the budget really without impacting healthcare. We're going to go after earmarks. We're going to go after these big I'm 56 years old. In 7 years, I'm going to get 78 cents on the dollar unless something changes today. It's out of money. The money that was to fund it is gone. It's set to expire, period. There is no other way out. The only way out is to raise taxes or to reduce benefits, period. Everybody over 55 or 60, you can probably stay on course at the end of the day, but everybody younger than 50, there's going to be some adjustments. I'm prepared. When I was in college, my finance teacher said, Ryan, don't count on it. And that was 32 years ago. So here we are. We have to be honest with America. We can't balance the budget, though, unless we go after the biggest number one expense, obviously interest payments. The next one, the one's bigger actually, is healthcare. Healthcare is the second big item on my platform because I want to put together a Republican-led, de-socialized healthcare plan that actually brings price visibility, competition back, and actually streamlines healthcare again. How would you guys see a real competitive healthcare plan? So, when you dive into healthcare, it's amazing. We're going to break up the monopolies on the insurance side, the healthcare provider side, and big pharma monopolies there. And they're there in all three major sectors. And who's paying for this is the taxpayer, and it's hurting the poor the most. We have the largest income gaps and wealth gaps that we've ever had. Many people think, well, it's the tax bracket's the problem. The tax bracket's not the problem. The problem is inflation, because inflation hurts the poor the most and the lower middle class the most, because the cost of goods they pay for gas and fuel and food is the same for you and I, but it's a percentage of their income. It's way much more. And at the end of the day, we have to stop it because it's eroding their bank accounts. It's called the dilution of the dollar. And so as we look at healthcare, this is what we'll do. There's an old law that prevents insurance companies from competing across state lines. We're going to kill it. We're going to allow insurance companies to compete. I've been in Iowa. I don't know how many you have here in South Carolina, but in Iowa, 2 or 3 major insurance providers. That's it. I have 6,000 competitors in the mergers and acquisition space here in the United States. Over 6,000. They've got 3 in Iowa. You need competition. Hospitals have bought 75% of the doctors in the United States. They've taken away all the competition. 30 years ago, I used to work for Boston Scientific, and we would sell to doctors and hospitals, but doctors would compete with them. Hospitals now become financial institutions. Finance managers have really become the care providers. Doctors are now revenue generators. It's a different day than it was even 30 years ago. We've allowed this to happen. We have to put the patient back in charge. Small companies pay 30% more for private insurance than those that work for big companies. We have to allow associations to form for a small company which employs 2/3 of America to really be able to form together and have competitive rates again. We need to put the patient back in charge. We have healthcare savings accounts where you can shop again. This is the craziest thing in America. I'm telling you, remember when Obamacare was being passed and we were so afraid of that single-payer system? We were like, I don't want to be like Europe. You remember that? Everybody's crying about that. We're already there, and it's worse because we have all the bureaucracy but twice the price. We spend twice as much on healthcare as any other nation in the world, any other developed country, and we're not even in the top 20 in patient outcomes. And we're letting this happen. It's the only thing we purchase as Americans that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong, that we walk into a doctor's office or a hospital and we purchase healthcare and we have no idea what it costs. No idea. They say, just give me your card. Don't worry about it. If you ask them, they say, I don't know. And you find out 90 days later, holy cow. And then you thank God your insurance covers it. And then you find out next year your premiums went up 20%. And you're like, why did that happen? And year after year, premiums outpace wage inflation by 50%. Healthcare inflation is 40% higher than regular inflation. Wage inflation is a half of regular inflation. So wage inflation is down here, regular inflation is here, and healthcare inflation is here. And so this is our problem. We're going to transform healthcare. We're going to bring price competition back. I'm going to get rid of the patent extensions that the United States gives to big pharma companies 10 to 15 years longer than every other nation. And we are going to stop subsidizing the globe in pharmaceutical care, because that's what we do today. We give patent extensions 10 to 15 years on President Trump over 2 million. They gave President Biden over 8 million last campaign. So how long are we going to keep doing this? It's going to stop when I'm leading the country, because we have to. We have to. We have to. When we are strong financially, which we can balance the budget, this is what's going to be the key to us leading China, Russia, all these other nations of the world that are rattling their sabers right now. You know, a lot of people wonder, you know, what's going to be the strength of this? How are we going to fight through this? Well, we're in a couple proxy wars right now. We're in a Cold War with China, proxy war with Iran, proxy war with Russia. When would they listen to us and why? Well, some of them are economic wars. One's a spiritual war. You have to know, we have to recognize the difference. It wouldn't matter what we do economically with one. There's still a spiritual battle going on that's in a different place. But at the end of the day right now, Russia's not paying attention to us and China's not paying attention to us. Not just because Biden's a weak president. I think that's part of it. But the bigger reason is because of the devaluation of the U.S. dollar, because we have savaged it, really. It is now used less and less on the international markets. China is now forcing people to use their currency in international trade. And when the United States dollar is strong, you know what's going to happen again? Because we spend about $600 billion more on China than they do on us, we can tell them, listen, I can find somebody else to buy things from, but you can't find anybody else to do what we do because we are the economic power of the world. They will listen to us again. They'll listen to us when the dollar's healthy. Right now, they're trying to move right past us, and economically, we've got to shore ourselves up, and then they'll listen. And when we start leading again, we're strong financially again, we will help lead the world to a place of freedom, because really what they desire is security, strength, and prosperity. And I would tell Putin right now the very same thing. We'd bring NATO leaders in there and we'd bring an end to this war. I do not believe in countless endless wars, but I do believe a strong defense is to do what Reagan did, and that's to deter war. How many would agree with that? That's what we need. Now, all this would be great, but when we currently have a southern border that's wide open, all of it would be for naught. I'm not going to sit there and fund other people's borders while we have ours insecure. We all know there's a problem. It's time to fix that as well. But it would be dishonest if I didn't blame ourselves to some level, Republicans, that we are part of the problem here, because right now we need to come up with leadership solutions. You know, as I look at many of my colleagues that are fighting the far left, and first of all, I want you to know, I believe in fighting the far left. But at the end of the day, just going bare knuckles fist fights with the far left, are we really winning anybody over? Right now, we only won 46% of the vote in the last 2 general elections. We lost 46 of the top 50 cities. I'm from Texas. We lost Dallas. We're a red state. We lost Dallas. We lost Houston. We lost San Antonio. We lost Austin. We expect to lose Austin. Austin's weird, okay? Have you been to Austin? We just kind of give that one over. But we lost Fort Worth, which to me is like the Alamo of conservatism in the Republican Party. The Republicans have led Fort Worth for 65 years, and we lost it. Why? Our urban centers in America are the fastest growing communities. Young people are living there. Immigrants are moving there. Minorities are living there. People are moving there. Cultural centers of education. And the Republican Party has been backed out of urban America. Now, if you look at the map, we are a party of the suburbs in rural America. How much farther can we move away? And if we want to ignore young people today, which college students voted about 65% to 70% for Joe Biden in the last election, and if we want to ignore young people today, we're going to be battling uphill all the more. There's 70 million young people. There's minorities here that are legal citizens that are voting, and they're looking at us going, do you have a plan? So for the border, this is, I think, what we should do. We need a comprehensive immigration plan. I'm a pastor. I've been part of a multicultural church for 30 years. I've got friends that are Christians and believers, and they're kind of more independent, but they're not going to necessarily vote Republican. They've got family members that have been waiting 15 to 20 years to apply to become citizens here and to come to our country legally. And the Republican Party doesn't have a plan for illegal immigration. We know that, right? Much less illegal immigration. What are we going to do about it? And so what I'm recommending to do is to come up with a comprehensive plan, the first ever, not just Republican health care plan, but the first ever Republican-led comprehensive border security, because it's got to be secure from coast to coast, and immigration plan, and we get the votes to get it done. That's what I'm proposing. We've launched this. We got some detailed plans out there. We have a Security and Dignity Act that actually brings security to our country from coast to coast. Because if we don't do this right, there's this guy in California named Gavin Newsom. He's going to open the floodgates right up there. If we close it in Texas, he's going to say, come this way. All the cartels, drugs, and people are going to just reroute a different way. So we're going to have to come up with, I believe this, about $30 billion a minimum, and we're going to need congressional approval. That takes money. You know, it's going to take leadership. It's going to take doing somebody what Reagan did. You know, right now we've had last few presidents, it goes back several, that don't believe in congressional legislation anymore. Each president may pass one key piece of legislation, and that's it. You know what the rest is? Executive orders. You know what? We became a nation because we didn't like a king giving executive orders. You know that? Remember that? And now we've got them giving 300 and 400 each term, and then the new president comes in, wipes theirs out, and gives us another 300 or 400. And we've got to get back to doing what Reagan did. You remember Reagan? Lord help us. We need some leadership again that can transcend our party, do what he did, get 59% of the vote, work with a guy like Tip O'Neill, argue it like crazy, have dinner and a beer, and then work together again and pass legislation that works for America. That's what we'll plan to do. We've got to do it. So we've got a security plan. We've got an immigration plan that actually gets rid of sanctuary cities. It ends catch and release. It makes probably 5-7 million people go back home right away. But for strict requirements for some of the jobs that we actually need here, we allow worker registration, which is the give on this thing. Because I'm not willing to sit here and let 100,000 young people die a year as we sit here as Republicans and Democrats and go, I don't like each other. How many guys are ready to stop the killing of the youth of America? Did you know that fentanyl's doing that? I can't stand it anymore. China's giving these drugs over. Cartels are doing it. And we're just sitting there watching it happen. This is 200 to 300 young people a day. This is 9/11, 2,000 people dying a week. And we're just kind of going, well, I don't like, we'll fix it one day. How come we're not meeting today? We've lost our way. We've lost our way. We're watching 100,000 people die a year, and we're arguing over, well, I don't like the fact that we should give worker registration. Did you know we're giving amnesty already? We have 20 million people here. We're giving them free health care, we're doing it already, and nobody's talking about what are we really going to do? It's time that we get out of this partisan hack and we do something right for America. We're in a day where we've lost the heart of urban America because the Republican Party hasn't had, I would say this, a real message for the poor. You know, there's 4 groups of people in the Bible that God pays attention to, and he had to have Israel pay attention to. And it's the widow, the orphan, the poor, and the stranger at the gate, or the immigrant. What is our message for the poor? If we lost 46 of the top 50 cities and 88% of them are voting for Democrats, why would somebody that's poor vote for us? I would contend that our message is the best one for them. Smaller government, the ability to dream. You can come out of anything in life, and we see people do it all the time. That's the best message. But if you put yourself in many other places, and I'm talking abject poverty, where you don't know where next week is coming from, food, clothes, shelter, you're struggling. And one party is offering you a socialist alternative. I'm going to give you free education, free health care, free tuition, free food, free wages. And we're offering a dream. You can do and become anything you want to be. Good luck. And it kind of stops right there. And what I'm saying is we can't back out of urban, we need to dive in. And the way I want to dive in is hit into the core problem of poverty, which is education. Education needs reformation in America. How many would believe that today? 1 out of 6 children in urban America, black children particularly, are reading at the 8th grade level. Only 35%, regardless of race, in suburbs or wherever, are proficient in math and reading in the United States. What do we need? We need, first of all, we need school choice. You guys like school choice? You know what we also need? We need a curriculum. You guys remember that word? We've put in so much politics and propaganda in schools, we've gotten away from a curriculum. You know, we also need accountability. If you want a high school degree from a school from the United States of America, there ought to be some standards to it that sets a standard for what that means. We're moving kids along, giving them a diploma, but they're not ready for life. We need volunteers. I had a chance to visit the largest volunteer organization I've seen, after-school program in Chicago. They bring 1,700 kids in the toughest part of the districts in Chicago every single year, every week, and they have a 50% higher graduation rates than the other schools kids that don't go through the program. 50%. It's like 84% graduation compared to like 64%. It's huge. It's amazing. We can do that. I was with 60 college students just 2 nights ago at Iowa State, and I said, listen, I tell young people this all the time. How many of you guys want to change the culture of America? Yeah. How many of you guys hate politics? Yeah. I said, then join me in a movement. Abandon politics, especially partisan politics. But join me in a movement to love your neighbor. Would you do this? Would you spend 3 hours a week, maybe 5, mentoring one child? Not a classroom, one child. Can you imagine hundreds of thousands of college students just giving 2 to 4 hours a week, maybe 5, mentoring a child one-on-one in the 3rd grade, teaching them how to read, write, and do math? We could change America. We could change the education system. We could change one person's life, which could change the world. This is what we need in our country. I would call it a Republican alternative to socialism, volunteers, and then vocational trades. We have to get back to teaching. Not everybody's going to go to college. You don't have to come out of college with $100,000, $200,000 in debt. You can learn to be a craftsman, a plumber, electrician, a mason. You can learn to become a computer technician. There's so many jobs, even in the medical field, that can support a family, but we got to teach them. If they're not going to go to college, what are we training them for out of high school? They're not ready today. So we got to get kids ready for the global stage, to get kids ready for life, and that's my vision for America. If we do these things, fix our budget, fix healthcare, balance the budget, we'll be strong internationally, secure the border, do it once and for all. So 50 years from now, there's a wall. Technology, towers, people, resources, that thing is protected. It's not a year-to-year plan. I can put the military there. That may be a stopgap, but that's not a permanent solution. That's not a permanent solution. I don't want my kids to have to face the same battles that I'm facing today. Do you? It's time for us to stand up and do something. So we have to act. But in all of this, it's going to take, I believe, this faith. When I first started this race, people asked me, Ryan, why are you in this race? You know what you're up against? We missed the first debate by 5 people out of New Hampshire. I told New Hampshire, I'm coming for you. And we hit the polling in a couple polls, but, you know, there's rules. And there's something going on where they want to limit the field quickly. Why aren't more people here today sharing with America? Because somebody in a back room, in a dark room with cigars, is trying to say who the candidates should be instead of letting the voices and the ideas of America be heard today. And that's what we have to get back. And most of America doesn't even know the race has started yet. I'm from Texas. We're slow to it. We're not until March. They're like, has it started yet? You know that's true. You're in an early state, so you're blessed. But, I mean, a lot of the world's just not even in the game yet, and yet the field's already limited. Who decided that? Was it we the people? Or was it somebody else? And somebody else is making the decisions instead of we the people, and that's why I'm in this race. I'm in this race because I believe. Somebody asked me, he said, Ryan, do you really believe America can end the division? Did you know that's the #1 word to describe our country? Divided. I think we're perilously close to Lincoln's warnings when he said this. He said, if danger's ever going to come to America, I'll paraphrase, it won't be from abroad. We ourselves would be its author and its finisher. And I think we're perilously close to that, where we're allowing division and hatred and discord and racism and prejudices keep us from working together. But it's going to take a measure of love and wisdom to get back on track. And so here we are. And I told him this. I said, you know what? I just believe we can. I believe. I'm in this race still because I believe. We just got polling in a national poll. I think I'm 1% behind Chris Christie. I think we're in 6th right now. We're still in this race because I believe. I believe there's a different message that's not been heard yet. And I'm still going to keep shouting it because I believe God's called me to it, and I believe our nation needs something different than what I'm seeing and hearing today. But it's going to take belief. You know, and I was, one of my first trips to Iowa, I was meeting with the Iowa governor, Reynolds, at a meeting in Dickinson County. We do all these little meet and greet events at coffee shops and pizza ranches they have there in Iowa. It's crazy. I've been to all these places. One of them, they have a lot of dirt roads in Iowa too, gravel roads, and we were trying to get to one quickly, and Iowa people have been praying for rain because they got a lot of corn there. And you couldn't see it on one side of the hill, but we launched on the other side of the hill and it rained. It was one of those down the hill and up the hill. We started fishtailing it in the mud and we gassed it. We got about halfway up the hill. In 4 hours, I'm meeting with the governor and we slide back down in a ditch. As far as the eye could see is corn. That's it. Nothing else. I step out of the car. I'm this much in mud in a suit just like this. My shoes are coated in mud and I'm meeting with the governor in 4 hours. And if a tow truck was right there, they wouldn't be able to get us out. It was too much mud. I'm going, dear God, help me. One of my friends walks up the hill. Dave, that guy over there, walks up a hill. And I mean, gets on the other side and a lady in a white truck stopped. She had a friend that had a tractor and they came and pulled us out. Listen to this. Her name was Faith. I got to the luncheon that day. I was 45 minutes late and all 12 people stayed. This is what I tell people when they ask me what I love about Iowa. I say Iowans. I mean, who would stay 45 minutes late? They did. Maybe you would. In Dallas? No, they're gone. They're moved on. I went to the shoe store. I said, you got a size 12 black? They did. Bought new shoes. Contributed to the economy there. $95, by the way. But I made it on time that night to speak with the governor as well. And this is what I'm telling America. We need faith again. We need to believe again. We need to believe in our Constitution. We need to believe in God. We need to believe in each other. We need to believe in doing the right thing. And we do. We'll get our country back. That's the way to freedom. That's the way. That's the way we can do it. You know, if you go out to our booth, you'll see a couple hats. I brought two of them up here. Because I'm a CEO and I'm a pastor. So I've got two sides to my life. This is the pastor side of my life, by the way. Believe. But I got another side where sometimes I'm going, where's the freedom in America? And by the way, this says Way to Freedom. If you can't read the small print, Way to Freedom. That was the name of our speech when we launched. One of our guys said, hey, I like that acronym. That's kind of funny. So if anybody asks you what this means, just say it's the way to freedom. That's what it means. But the way to freedom is just this. It's limited government, but it's a balanced budget. It's competitive Republican-led health care. It's a sensible plan on the border. It's doing what you and I would do if we sat at a table and said, let's figure this out. It's getting politics out. It's getting the bureaucracy out. It's getting the big pharma out. I mean, it's doing the right thing. You know, the Bible says righteousness exalts a nation. Sin brings a reproach. What is righteousness? It's just doing the right thing. How many of you guys ready to do the right thing? That's true north. I want to close with something kind of fun. Would you guys do me some fun for a second? And then we'll do some Q&A. But would you stand up for a second? Give you an example so we can find true north here. I want you guys to stand up for just a second. Probably need to stretch your legs anyway. Now, I want you to get about a foot or two away from your neighbor and the table because I'm going to ask you to do something. I don't want to cause an injury here. But I'm going to ask you to help me find true north for a second. And by the way, did you help me out here yet? No, you better hurry. Ooh, if I had my phone, I can do it, Dave. I want everybody to, and I actually need this before we do this exercise. You know, there's a way to find true north, and it's using a compass. But many times we kind of lose our way. And if I just ask everybody, close your eyes real tight and put one hand over your eyes just for a second. And if you can't do this, you don't have to do this. But if you can, just kind of turn around one or two times in one place and do a circle. Just turn around one or two times. Don't cause an injury, though, by the way, because we have limited insurance these days for this stuff. Then turn the other way. And then keep your eyes closed for a second. And now with your other hand, eyes closed shut. But with your other hand, would you just point which direction you think north is? Just with one hand, point to which direction you think north is. Now keep your hand pointed. Keep your hand pointed. And open your eyes and just look around the room for a second. Keep your hand pointed. Some people are pointing north. So this is what America looks right now. There's true north. There's true north. There's true north. Now listen. This is actually the direction of true north. Everybody point this way. Point this way. Now look around for a minute. This is what it should look like. Liberty, freedom, wisdom, a good budget, the next generation, the right thing, volunteering, vocational trades. strong on the border, strong across the globe, defending freedom. This is what it should look like. But it's going to take us moving on what we believe, doing something different. And that's why I'm in this race, to help inspire a generation to do just that. My name's Ryan Binkley. I believe in God. I believe in America. I believe in South Carolina. I believe in you. I'm asking you to believe in me. Look into what we're saying. Share it with some friends. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Y'all give Ryan Binkley a hand.
Hey, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother. Great.